Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Marvel Legends Toys R Us exclusive X-Men Wave Marvel Now Storm figure. I called it in the beginning that I thought this figure may end up being the best figure in the wave, and I think it probably is. I think I like this figure the most out of all of the ones that we were given. It's a really cool look for Storm, so I'm happy about that. I'm happy they made this for her. Excuse me, sorry. And they did a pretty good job executing on this figure. I have one, kind of two complaints, but otherwise I'm really happy with this figure. First thing I want to talk about is the head, so let's just take that off and look at it. They sculpted this really crazy mohawk very well. I think it looks great. They painted it gray, and then there's like a dry brush shading, or not shading, highlights of white over top. And it might be glued on. I only say that because it looks like there's a bit of a lip, and there's no paint issue at all around the mohawk, so I'm pretty sure it's glued on. I love that they did that. You know, if they painted it, there would be bleeding and overpaint and all kinds of problems. So I'm super happy with that. It looks freaking fantastic. I love this head sculpt. The sculpt itself looks good. They painted the white eyes with the black around them, the lips, everything's painted perfectly. It looks really freaking good. So I love that head sculpt. Let's put it on. I didn't show you the height yet, so I'm going to do that. We do have some continuity issues with the color of brown. The face matches the peg, but then the neck doesn't, and then the chest kind of does. So, you know, it's a little bit hit or miss right there, but it's not particularly noticeable on the figure. So the height, she's 7 inches tall to her mohawk, about 6 1/4 to the top of her head. So she's a little tall. It looks to me like the upper body is the shield agent, female shield agent body with some hands, I think from, those would have been from Satana, I believe. I think that's her hands, but either way, she's got the open hands, but the arms are shield agent female. The chest is, I think it's that body. It's kind of hard to tell with all the paint, but it looks to me to be the shield agent body. Although we do have the neck hinge, so that is a big upgrade. So maybe it's a new sculpt all the way around. It's really close. She's not super busty, which I think fits the Storm figure. We don't need giant boobs on every female figure. One problem I do have with this upper body, and I said I only had one in the beginning, but this is just a little problem, so it doesn't count, is a lot of the new figures have this giant gap in the neck. For the ball pegs, they're adding this extra space between the neck and the ball peg, and they're not setting the heads low enough on that ball peg to hide it. I think the reason they're doing that is to give us the ability to move the head from side to side and move it around actually on that ball and then also on the hinge, but it ends up with this giant gap, and that doesn't look good. There are other ways to achieve that range of motion, so I hope they kind of fix that. Once you get it posed, it's not going to be an issue, hopefully, but you do end up with that gap, so be aware of that. The paints are all fairly clean. I did pick the best of 3 that I bought. There's a little bit of sloppy lines here and there, but this one turned out pretty darn good. I think another coat of the white would have been nice. There's a little bit of kind of black seeping through, but it's a really nice pearlescent white. Same for the gold. It looks really good. I wish they would have sculpted some of the suit lines on there, but they didn't. It's not that big of a deal because it's still a really appealing figure. They did a great job with that. I think the lower legs are from Satana also, minus, or maybe even with the boots. I didn't pull her out to check, but they did a really good job. Whether it's a new sculpt or an old one, the musculature on the body is sculpted really well. The general shape of the body, it's just a really nicely done figure. I'm really happy with it. So I don't really need to talk about the articulation for the top half. It's shield agent female with the neck hinge. So for the hips, we're still fairly limited side to side. That seems to be a common problem these days. She does have the swivel though, so you can move them around the way you need to forward, but side to side is going to be a bit of a problem. Double jointed knee, standard ankles. We've seen these ankles and these feet before. I can't remember from who. Maybe it was Satana. Somebody had heels and somebody didn't. I think it was Satana who had these feet. Doesn't matter. They're good. No sculpt work again for the boots, but the paint work is fairly clean. Now here's my complaint, and it's the cape. The cape looks good for the most part, but it's made out of this kind of a vinyl tablecloth material, and the line work is okay on it. I'm not complaining about that, but they put it in the package with these little tabs, and they left a mark on there. I don't know if hot water can fix that. If it can't, then that sucks. We don't want these giant marks on the cape, so that's a bit of a problem. And then the material, I would have much rather had a soft vinyl in the sense of like the old Rogue, the old Storm cape. That would have been much better than this. It's not horrible, but as you can see, it creases, so that it just doesn't look as good as it should, and it's just kind of tucked in back here, so that's not ideal either. And then the last problem with the cape is that these rings don't stay on her wrist, so if you put her arm up, you have to kind of wedge it onto the hand, and then even still, it doesn't want to stay. So you're going to have some issues with posability without going a little bit extra, putting a little extra work into it. So those are some small flaws, but she is still a really good looking figure. I definitely recommend this figure 100%. It's pretty awesome. The cape is an issue, but the rest of the figure is pretty darn good. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.